So, people on the keto diet might be familiar with the product. He didn't create it because it had been used by cooks for a couple centuries prior. He just made it easier for people to use.
Well, like Washington Carver with the peanut butter, he patented a process.
Yes. Product and not
they're going to need the gluten-free. And wash it down with their gluten-free water.
If they really think this product has gluten in it, they've got a problem. Because there's no way.
It's gluten-free. Yeah.
Well, it is gluten-free, but, I'm not going into the whole thing about gluten-free yeast, okay? Oh, my God. Things do have gluten in it, but some of the stuff that's advertised as gluten-free should never even be advertised as gluten-free because it's never had gluten even associated with it. And I'm not even talking about products that may even be processed in the same facility.
You see what it takes to get her going?
Oh, you see why we don't do a nutritional podcast, all right? They'd be flipping out every day.
They can wash it down with their fat-free water.
Oh, my God.
I'm not kidding you, folks. We actually see these products on the shelves.
Yeah, unfortunately, and that's what, you get me going, that's all you need to do. Oh, my God.
Anyway.
We are going to go talk about the Knox Mansion. Mm-hmm. So.
Yes.
Rant over?
Yes. Well, welcome once again to Unearthly Upstate. I'm Matthew.
I'm Mari, calming down.
I guess I better lean into this.
Yes.
Every fall in a mansion near the junior high school of Johnstown, New York, a haunted house is open to the public, and this is a family-friendly haunted house, mind you. And the tour of the estate might have some cheap scares, but it might be one of the few places you can actually meet a ghost during a tour. Before the tours, before the restoration, that is, ongoing, because the restoration keeps on going.
Yeah.
Okay. But before its time as a bed and breakfast, the house was already reputed to be haunted, and the ghosts that walk the hallways of this 42-room mansion are not out to scare you, except when they knock over a lamp, footsteps are heard, ghostly children might be glimpsed out of the corner of your eye, perhaps. Other people, many children have reported seeing an elderly gentleman. He may be the ghost of a gardener or a man named Philip Ulrich, now this is pretty specific, who had been sent on trips to gather rare orchids for the owner of the mansion. The lady of the house has also been seen walking through the corridors, checking on the affairs of her home. And who were the owners of this lovely building with its volcanic ash fireplace and a secret room recently discovered? Oh, that'd be interesting. All right. The name is Knox. That should be familiar with cooks and bakers, and its unflavored gelatin in an orange package. And from desserts to breads to drinking it is a tea to help with hair growth. The last one might be a wives' tale, by the way, but there are women who swear by it, and this unflavored gelatin became, and is still, a kitchen staple around the world.
I use it. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
I make these when I was on a low-carb, high-fat diet, the peanut butter fat bombs. And one of the ingredients was the gelatin, because you had to hold it together very well. And Knox gelatin works very well.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So I can take over a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, Charles Knox found a way to granulate gelatin. Up until this point, there were really only two ways to make gelatin. One was to either boil bones and make it yourself from scratch, or buy clear gelatin sheets, which were basically somebody else had boiled the bones down and then laid out the gelatin and cooled them.
Mm-hmm.
So it was still a long, drawn-out process. But Charles' discovery made gelatin more affordable to everyday cooks and much easier to use.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this time, gelatin desserts were treats that mainly the rich could afford because of the time it took to make a dessert. If you've watched any... Oh, I can think of a couple examples. Well, Townsend's, I know, has done a couple gelatin desserts. They're very prevalent in the Victorian era, and if you ever catch, there's a couple shows. What was that one with the food critic and the one comedian? Mm-hmm. They would eat different time periods.
They were in Britain.
Yeah, and they did the Victorian one, and they showed the process went into making this gelatin.
Supersizers.
Supersizers, yes. Supersizers go Victorian. And the process to making gelatin was insane. You get the bones, you boil them down, because you got to get the collagen and the, I forgot what else. There's another protein that comes out of the bones. Mm-hmm. And then you strain all that off. You strain all the solid pieces off, and then you let that water sit. You take the fat off, and then you're left with that gelatin. And if you've ever made bone broth, if you've ever tried to make your own stock, you know what I'm talking about. It's a gelatin, and it really is.
Knox came up with a process that would clarify all that, so that it would be a nice, clear gelatin, odorless and tasteless. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And after his discovery, he moved his family to Johnstown, New York. In 1890, he built his factory. Now, Johnstown, New York was known for leather tanning and glove making, like its sister city, Gloversville. We're back in that end of the woods now. Now, it's understandable why Knox would pick this town as a place to build his factory. The raw materials from which gelatin is made comes from nearly all the leather mills in the county, and the most desirable part consists of the skin of the calf's heads and a few other portions of the animal which contain gelatin to a large degree. Mm-hmm. So here you got a town famous for making its gloves. Mm-hmm. They've got tanneries. Well, in order to make the leather, and I'm sorry, I'm going to offend some people who don't know how the sausage is made. But by this time, the animal's been butchered. They get the leather. The butchers have taken the meat off, and you're left with, well, you wouldn't get much offal to be used with the gelatin. But you've got the bones, you've got the scraps, you've got parts of the cow that can't be eaten.
You're using every part of the buffalo.
Boil it down, and you'll start the process. So, it's very understandable why he moved there. Now, the business was immediately successful. Mr. Knox Gelatin received the Medal of Superiority over all brands at the American Institute Fair in New York, held in October 1891. Also, at the Pure Food Exposition in Boston in 1891. And then at the same, in Philadelphia, it must have been 1890 because it's Philadelphia last year. This is the only gelatin made in the country which is positively free of all odor and taste.
Yep. Which is exactly what you need as a gelatin base.
Exactly.
So that you can add your own colors and flavors to it.
Yes.
Because otherwise the traditionally made gelatin was kind of brownish and had a smell to it.
Gray. It was
grayish.
Gray. Mm-hmm. Not that pretty.
No, not very appetizing at all.
No. Now, Rose was busy. She was helping out her husband. He was kind of progressive in their marriage. He gave her a stipend and let her run the household. She was quite the businesswoman, too.
Yeah, she wrote cookbooks.
She started writing the cookbooks, and you can go online and still find these cookbooks. Mm-hmm. And they were all gelatin desserts, and the cookbooks were given away free. They were given away to promote the gelatin. Mm-hmm. I think me and my mom may have had some of these. She had quite the collection of free cookbooks. She probably had a few of the Rose Knox cookbooks.
Yeah, we had a few Knox cookbooks on the shelf, too, down on the ranch.
So these were done for promotions, and it was a success. I mean, you consider it this time. I mean, I haven't used gelatin sheets, and they're not that bad because you dissolve them in water and pretty much carry on the same way you do with the powdered form. But I prefer the powdered form because those two big containers I have sitting in my pantry are about 2 years old, and they're good for another 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas the gelatin sheets can break down quicker, and they don't have as long a shelf life. So, yeah, I got 2 pounds of gelatin sitting in my my pantry, but I know it's going to be used up within the next 10 years. Mm-hmm. So, all you gotta do is make some more candies or whatever. Start making my own Jell-O, flavored Jell-Os. Mm-hmm. And, I'll go back to adding it to bread because it really firms up the flavor really well.
My favorite thing to do is to mix the Jell-O with dairy, and instead of using the cold water, it depends on what kind of parfait I want to mix. If it's red wine or white. Mm-hmm. But a nice refreshing dessert is mixing Chardonnay in place of the cold water.
Yeah, I was just going to say,
and then pureeing, and then pureeing it into a mousse.
Yeah,
it is really a really delicious and refreshing treat.
I was just going to say, Jell-O shots, folks. Jell-O shots.
Jell-O shots. Yeah.
But Charles did pass away in 1908. Mm-hmm. Now, the sons were not old enough to take over the business, so Rose stepped in. Mm-hmm. And she'd been helping him run it, so it wasn't like, she was stepping into something she had no idea what she was doing. She had been basically his partner in all this.
Yeah.
But she proved not only to be his equal when it came to running the business, she surpassed him. It was under her direction that Knox Gelatin became the household name it is.
Charles simply didn't have the time to do the marketing. He dropped dead.
Well, I think he did planning before then. Okay. All right. She became one of the most successful and most progressive female business leaders of that time. One of the first things she did was to fire an executive who had refused to work for a female. And then she closed the backdoor entrance for the factory workers. Mm-hmm. That sounds horrible, but actually she had a point. She said, "We are all ladies and gentlemen working together, and we all come through the front door."
Yes, there was 2 doors that people had on their houses. It was the front door, and then there was the tradesman's entrance.
Yeah, she got rid of that in the factory. Everyone who
wanted. Separate door that, the 2-tiered system. Yeah. First class and second class. The second class citizens would go through the back door to enter the factory, and the first class citizens would go through the front door. But she ended that kind of thing.
She ended it, yes, especially in her factory. Mm-hmm. So that already was a very progressive move she made. So, although she said she was only running the business until her sons could take over, she proved to be a savvy businesswoman. Now, this is actually from the Knox Gelatin website. Upon assuming responsibility for Knox Gelatin, she reevaluated her husband's business methods and elaborate advertising stunts. She sold off her husband's mainly peripheral business ventures and concentrated on selling the gelatin to the American housewife. She reasoned gelatin was bought and used by women, and women would be more interested in foods that were economical, nutritious, and easy to prepare. So she set up a test kitchen and developed hundreds of recipes, which were printed on Knox packages, on leaflets, and in illustrated cookbooks. They appeared in newspapers and magazines under the heading, "Mrs. Knox Says." It was through her efforts that gelatin evolved from a delicacy and a food for invalids into a common household staple. By 1915, the business had tripled. Mm-hmm. She also pushed for ideas of how gelatin could be used in other industries. In 1920, Knox Gelatin produced the first pharmaceutical gelatin used for what we know today as gel caps. There was also demand for gelatin photography. Mm-hmm. And during World War II, gelatin was used as a plasma extender, which helped with the blood shortages. Mm-hmm. Now, we do have experience of using gelatin in a non-food item. There is a way you can take gelatin. I think you have to mix in rubbing alcohol with it. But you can make, this is old school. I think anyone who's younger than the 40s might not have a clue what I'm talking about. There is a way to make copies that involved a gelatin tray and a piece of paper with kind of wettish ink on it. Mm-hmm. You laid the paper down on that tray, rubbed ink down on the gelatin, and you rubbed it, pulled that paper off, and then you put a clean sheet of paper on it, and lo and behold, you have a copy. We've actually made that. Yeah. That was one of our experiments, and we tried it in printing. It's a very interesting printing experiment. So if any of you artists out there are looking for a unique way to do printing, look up gelatin printing. You might have some really cool things.
Yeah, it holds its image pretty well, one print after another.
Yeah, you can get a few prints out before it finally fades away. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure about the plasma extender. I have no medical background. I can't tell you. But
I didn't have time. Yeah.
Gelatin's mainly a protein, so it would make sense. We do know it's used for ballistic gel. Well, you know, along the lines too is the do-it-yourselfers make their own ballistic gel. Yes. They use gelatin. I'm not sure how they make it. You know, the real ballistic gel, the real stuff they use for testing, and because you can see it, because it's clear enough, you can see it.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
And there's a lot of recipes online if you want to make your own, and guess what? Knox gelatin.
Because it's very close to the consistency of flesh.
Yes, so it is used. I mean, you watch the old MythBusters; they used it quite a lot.
Oh, that's for sure. Yeah.
There's some hunting, gunsmiths on YouTube that use it a lot. You know, so, and swordsmiths too. Which, anyway, let's go back to
a lot of uses for gelatin out there, folks.
Yes, not just to make a nice fruit dessert.
It's not just for the kitchen anymore.
Or a beautiful vegetable salad with hard-boiled eggs, green peas, and tuna.
Oh yeah.
Which I would never eat, but I do.
Or a lovely Chardonnay mousse.
Okay. So we got all this innovation going on with the gelatin. Rose is still ahead of it, and do you think she slows down? No. It was not just the product she was innovating. She was also changing how the American workers were treated. In 1913, she had her employees on a 5-day work week with 2 weeks paid vacation each year. Yeah. But there's plenty of jobs out there where paid 2-week vacation.
You gotta understand too, this was a time and place where people really didn't understand what a weekend was.
Exactly. Yeah, this was the start of the weekend concept. So, and then during the Depression, she refused to fire anyone and found other ways to cut costs to keep people's jobs.
That's very nice.
And
cut the fat from the top.
Yep. Even though the rest of the country was in the midst of one of the worst economic disasters, Knox Gelatin grew by 5%. By 1937, 85% of its employees had been with the company for at least 25 years. Now,
or more.
How's that for loyalty? You know?
Yeah, well, Rose and Charles here, they had something to offer, you know, so the people stayed.
Yeah. You know, she was a very good businesswoman. Really, really grew it. And I'm actually surprised I hadn't heard of her before, except maybe seeing her name on the cookbooks. And it's nice to see examples of businesswomen who stepped in. Well, in her case, took over, tell my sons are ready. And then she basically ran it. And was right there with her husband running the business when he started it. Just kind of, you know, behind the scenes a bit, not officially on the board or anything. But she knew what she was doing. Yeah. You know?
Well, they were well respected and loved in John's time. And they cared about their community. And in 1907, Charles and Rose gifted a home to the Willing Helpers Home for Women, the home for elderly women in Fulton County. Yep. And this building is still in use by the Willing Helpers to this very day.
Yeah. Yeah. Rose lived until 1950. And even though the company is no longer in the hands of the Knox family, the brand still bears their name.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you'd like to visit it, the first floor is open to the public year-round. Contact the owners for the most current information at 104 West 2nd Avenue, Johnstown, New York, 12095, or call 518-752-8231, and they do have a Facebook page as well.
And from what I've seen, the haunted houses look pretty cool. We might have to go out and visit them.
Oh, yeah.
Well, wait, we'll be too busy with your haunting going on, so.
Well, yeah, I got to come up with something different. I'm not even sure if I'm going to be in the right, well, not the right place per se, but in the same place, you know, and I don't know if I'm going to be in the same place.
A little aside, folks, during the month of October now, Matt is working for a place called Demon Acres. If he went there last fall, he was the guy in the kitchen. Or the dining room, sorry.
I was the guy in the dining room.
And he will be there when they do their overnight in a few months. So.
Yes.
So we actually plugged Demon Acres too. We got to tell your boss.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. A shout out to Terry Royce there.
Yes. But okay, what do you feel about Rose haunting her mansion there?
Well, I think it's another rather like the starring again. Or the one we did before, the one we did after Starren as well. Rather beneficent.
No, Letchworth wasn't.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah,
no, Starren. Yeah, it is a good comparison with Starren. Here you had another very community active, very progressive thinking company
certainly.
here.
Yeah, philanthropists.
And the guy who's the go check out the website of the place of the Facebook page of the couple that is refurbishing the house. How much they've had to put into it to get it back to its grandeur. As for the secret room, I couldn't find out much more information on that.
Yeah,
what
you
that
whet
was.
my appetite with a secret room, first of all, and now
And I'm sorry, folks, I really didn't get much more information. They had just found it, and nobody really has any clue what this secret room was. Probably some sort of storage.
Probably just a closet.
It's probably some sort of storage, but they found like a chair in there and a couple of things. I don't think any nefarious reasons for it. I mean, we're talking about the orchids. She's the one who sent her gardener out to get those orchids.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Ulrich. Philip Ulrich.
So that's and they had the volcanic.
I got the flowers. It's the orchids.
And that giant volcanic stone fireplace. I mean, my God, how gorgeous that would be.
Yeah.
It's an interesting building. It used to be a bed and breakfast before this new couple took it over. And I gotta say, from what I've read about the hauntings there, they are pretty benign. I think if somebody came in and started disrespecting the house, I think Rose may have to put you in your place. But I don't think, if you are going to see a ghost there, you're not going to be frightened by them. I think, as long as you're respectful.
Absolutely. Yeah. And how does this fit into the ghost trope game then?
I don't know. I don't think there's many tropes in this one, really.
Not really. Knocks, footsteps, things getting knocked over, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Ghostly children out of the corner of the eye, that sort of thing. Yeah. Not really. The kind of haunting that you might experience there would be pretty benign.
Yeah. Now, the ghostly children were probably from another owner of the house.
Yes, that...
Because I couldn't find any connection with the Knoxes for that. So.
That's right.
But there was a doctor owned it at one point who died there. So there might be a connection with him. That's why the children are there. And he supposedly haunts the place, too.
Oh, okay.
You run into him, too. But, from what I've read, it's quite, around October, it looks to be a really fun place to go get a light scare. It definitely is not Demon Acres level.
No, it's nothing like that. It's not jump scares or anything like that. No. It's very family friendly.
Yeah. So, we plugged 2 haunted houses in this episode.
Knocked over 200 houses with one stone. So there we are.
One real haunted house, the other. The other not. But that is the story, Rose and Charles Knox.
Absolutely.
Hey, I got an assignment for our lovely viewers. Why don't you share on our Facebook page your favorite gelatin dessert, or one that you found horrific. My
favorite, I'm going to come out right now and say it and get the ball rolling. My favorite was the lime jello mold with the mini marshmallows and the shaved carrot. You find that at every Lutheran picnic in northwest Wisconsin.
Oh, God, yes. You still find them there. Oh, how about this one? The one with the vegetables?
Oh, yes.
And the cheese. You can get very creative with this stuff.
Perfect waste of of whatever it is it started out as.
Well, after I had my surgery, I was thinking maybe it would be a good way to increase my protein. Unfortunately, to drink it, you don't get that much protein because it's so diluted. So I haven't incorporated it back. But it is a good source of stuff like that. So
yeah, absolutely.
Well, yeah.
So thank you for listening to our ghastly podcast.
Yes, thank you, and thank you for putting up with our little craziness tonight.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to Unearthly Upstate. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Patreon, and on our webpage. We are on iTunes, Spotify, Spreaker, Stitcher, Podbean, and Google Podcasts. Please like, share, and review, and if you really like us, tell your friends. Unearthly Upstate is an animated Lyre Media production. The show is produced by Matt and Mari Minette, with purring provided by Honey and Lloyd. Research and writing done by Mari Minette. Music is by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0 license. Unless stated otherwise in the episode, the places mentioned in the broadcast have not paid or contacted us for any type of promotion. And please check out our webpage for full credit and sources for the episodes. Matt and I have decided to start a Patreon, and as a thank you for the first 10 Patreon members at any level, you will get a certificate stating that you are a founding Patreon of Unearthly Upstate. We have 4 tiers. Hopefully one of them, if you want to support us through Patreon, will fit your budget. So if you want to sign up for Patreon, this is a great time to do it. Remember, the first 10 people are going to be given certificates as founder Patreons. Thank you.